Fire up. Let's fire up.
Save the moment. Can't hear you. Oh. Welcome back to the 2019 Osaka sub of this third stop of the APP World Tour. I'm Bo Hodge along with Bainey and Dave. We've got distance racing today, a 13-kilometer race, roughly about 8 miles here in the rivers of Osaka. And yesterday we saw exciting sprint racing with Casper Steinfath and April Zilg winning for the men and women.
Yeah, the racing yesterday was insane. We woke up today. There's wind today, so there's some challenges. Looks like it's pretty bumpy out there. All the racers getting ready, and we got a fun little course to the city. Stoked to get it kicked off.
So we're going to combine the scores of the sprint racing and today's distance racing for our overall Osaka Sub Open champion for 2019. There's still one more stop for the racers coming up at the end of this year in December. It will be the Paris Sub Open to round out the racing portion for this. But also, we've got the surfing side at Barbados coming up later on this year, and the Grand Canaries in the final act for the subsurfers on the APP World Tour.
Yeah, for sure. Don't forget about the surfing events. We got the new one at Barbados. Everyone's talking, and there's a lot of buzz around that event. And, of course, the waves we scored in Gran Canaria last year, everyone's really excited to get down there. And, yeah, man, I can't wait to get it going. You can see us rocking the boat. We are in the live stream bunker boat.
We're actually in the river.
We are in the river, and I had to pop a Dramamine pill. I'm not going to lie. But that just gives you an idea of the conditions out there.
So we're just waiting. We're going to check in with Matu Ostier from Total Sup. He'll be our sideline reporter. And so we're going to go check out the highlights from the sprints races from yesterday. Let's check this out. Exciting sprint races yesterday on the Dojima River here in beautiful Osaka. We're at the Kanoshima Park, kind of an inlet island surrounded by the rivers. You can see the men. They're in the pink jerseys, and I believe Artur, our number one competitor, and Seychelles, they'll be in like the green jerseys, so the leader jerseys.
Yep, they do get that points leading recognition with the bright green jerseys. And it looks like they're going to do the start here pretty soon.
So it looks like the men are going to start before the women. You see the women out in the back. We have 22 men and 11 women in the pro division here. And they'll also be having some keiki races after the youth races coming up after our distance races. So we're just moments away from a start here at Osaka and building up and catching up. Seychelles is April Zilg. I mean, if she finishes ahead of Seychelles today in the distance race, she can be world number one heading into Paris.
Yeah, well, April Zilk definitely put in the work yesterday. Looked super strong. It's really fun to watch that sprint action right in front of our eyes under the bridge. And yeah, April's chasing that title as well. So Seychelles got to be feeling a little bit of pressure going into this race this morning.
And more on the women, Annie Reichardt, she's been showing some good signs. Fiona Wild, always consistent. And don't forget about Yuka Sato.
Yeah, Yuka Sato, I talked to her yesterday, and she's actually really looking forward to the distance race. Obviously, in Japan, she's feeling good, and I think the crowd might even give her that little bit of adrenaline. So look for Yuka Sato to have a strong event this morning.
Okay, let's slow it down, number 2.
Thank you, Bo and Dave, and welcome everyone to Osaka for day 2 of the Osaka Sup Open. Today is the long distance, and we're ready to go. We're 1 minute away from the start, and today is going to be a 10-kilometer race on the river. The boys are getting ready. We're only a few seconds away from the start now. We're going to have 2 loops around the small island of Nakanoshima Island. It's an island which is the central stage of the event, composed of 2 parts, and we're going to do 2 loops around the small part, and then a big loop around the big island, and back to the small loop of the smaller part of the island, and that will be the end of the 10K course. We are going to have 4 different starts, because the Pro-Am racers are joining the elite racers today. We're starting with the elite men's, and we're now 30 seconds away from the start. And I'll shut up.
Okay, Dave, it looks like Danny Ching, Daniel Sulio there, out in the right-hand pack. Who else do you see? There's Lincoln Dews.
Yeah, Lincoln Dews right there in the middle, making a little bit of a sprint to side draft Casper Steinfath, who's out there in front at the moment. So it does look like Daniel Husulio, Casper Steinfath, followed by Connor Baxter,
yeah,
Lincoln Dews, and Ty Judson in that first pack right there.
Trying to scan on over, trying to find where Michael Booth is.
Yeah, Michael not yet in frame.
There's Martin Vitry. Here comes a starboard. There's Boothie. So a bit of a slow start for Michael. He's one of the powerhouse. There's world champion at number 1, Artur Arukin. See the Tahitians there. Here we go, some Aussies. We got Ollie from New Zealand. We got Jackson Maynard here from Australia.
Yeah, and Bo, this is considered a flatwater race, but that gives a good perspective of how much wash and kind of side currents are happening in this narrow channel. It looks pretty tippy to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like your typical buttery flatwater kind of conditions.
So no real breakaway here. We're just 2 minutes into this race. 13K, what, under an hour, just over an hour?
Yeah, right about then. You'll see some of the top guys coming in right at that mark. Everyone's just kind of settling in, finding their bearings, getting used to the feel of their board in these conditions. You see Kenny Kaneko from Japan right in the middle of the screen there. T2-1 next to him.
So we're already starting to see some separation here. We see...
looks like the women's start right there, Bo.
Yeah.
So it looks like Lina Agaitis On yellow, Sonova closest to us. Over to the right, that's Yuka Sato in the lead. Good to see Yuka from Japan out, take an early lead, be out in front.
We see Seychelles in the green. There's Annie Reichhardt behind her. Back out to the men's section, and these guys are keeping together.
Look how close they're getting to the corner. This is where the sprint races were. Look how close Boothie gets to that corner right there.
So they'll be coming back here. That'll be the finish line area. So they're just right across from us. This is the Water Patrol staging ramps and the park that they'll have the opening and closing ceremonies. And
back to the women, Yuka Sato, Lina Agaitis. Looks like that's Seychelles in fourth. I can't see who's in third right there, but Fiona behind Seychelles and April Zilg on the left. So Yuka, what a win this would be for her to win in Japan.
Oh, she had all the cheers yesterday during the sprint races, and Yuka Sato making it into the consolation round and finishing second in that consolation with 6 overall. But she can feel the vibe, and she feels, I don't know if there's a lot of pressure on her in Osaka here, but I think she's handling it well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a good shot. That was actually Jade Housen in second, so good to see young Jade Housen.
Well, back to the men here. Lincoln Dews, Danny Ching, that's Daniel Hosulio, Connor Baxter in this foursome right here. And they're kind of looking around. And here's our GPS. We're going to be monitoring our paddlers as they paddle through the rivers. You can see the men on the top of the screen and the women on the bottom of the screen. 22 men, 11 women in the Pro Elite Division. And how about the performance yesterday by Mr. 404, Danny Ching, second in the sprints here in Osaka?
Yeah, I would love to see Danny Ching mix things up and win this distance race. It's good to see him out there, out in front. He's looking really good right now. Lincoln Dews out in front as well. He's looking to bounce back.
Back to the women. They're just right across from us here. And there's a big pack here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 paddlers in this lead pack.
Yeah, and I love to see that on that pink board. That looks like Jordan Mercer in the lead group, so good on you, Jordan.
Of course, Jordan, the 8-time M2O Molokai to Oahu Pro and Paddleboard World Champion. Recently this year, she won the Surf Ski Maui Gym Challenge back in May. Of course, she competes in the Nutri-Grain Iron Woman Series, which will be getting underway just starting next month down in the Gold Coast at Kulangala Gold. Back over to the men. There's Arthur Arukin.
Arthur Arukin, current #1 with that bright jersey. And look at that, Boothie off to the right all by himself. So Boothie trying to find cleaner water to make his way up to the front.
Well, there's 12 guys, and there's a train starting to happen here. And you can see a lot of that side bumps that they're going here. Now back over to the women.
Yeah, Jade Housen, Lina Agaitis kind of side drafting the lead at the moment. I'm loving this early strike by Jade Housen. Not afraid of the big moment. She's had some great results. And Seychelles cruising in.
There's Yuka in fourth.
Yuka down to fourth now. Fiona virtual tie with her. And watch April Zilk. She's kind of being quiet in the back so far. Look for her to kind of move up and see what she could do.
Well, there's 7 girls on screen here. How many bridges do you think they're going to be paddling under today?
Well,
maybe
I know
about
they're doing
50.
A loop, so.
There's a bridge about every 2 blocks here in Osaka. And they're going to be cheering down. Let's go down to Matu and check in with him. Take it away.
Thank you, guys. A very exciting start for the boys, but now we're catching up with the ladies. So here they are. I can see Seychelles, Lina Agaitis in front, actually, with Jade Housen, the 17-year-old Jade Housen, SIC rider from Dana Point, California, leading the race right now. Next to Lina Agaitis, the Canadian champ, who couldn't make it to New York 2 weeks ago due to a foot injury, but now she's leading the long-distance race. Seychelles is in the mix in third position. She had a bit of an upset race yesterday in the sprints. She didn't make the final due to fall in the semis. Yuka Sato, the local girl, is here, of course. Well, local, she's from Tokyo really, but she's the only Japanese racer in this competition. Fiona White, the girl from Hood River, is also making the top 5. April Zilg, who won the sprints yesterday, is in the mix, of course, followed by Anna Reichardt, who was second yesterday. So that big battle for the APP World Tour crown is carrying on today in the long distance in Osaka. You can see Jordan Mercer trying to catch that front train. Jordan Mercer is a champion from Australia. She's a prone and surf life-saving champion from Australia, and she runs on deep. Thank you very much. Back to you, boys.
All right, thank you, Matu. So about 8 girls in that lead group. Now we're swinging back over to the guys here, back over to the girls. And this is a large group, a group of 8 here in the lead.
Yeah, and they got, Lina likes to lead, so I'm not surprised there. She prefers to be in that opening spot. It'll be fun to see how it plays out, though, how long she wants to be there. I'm really impressed with Jade Houses at the moment, putting her effort in at the front pack as well, riding that side draft with Lina. And Seychelles and Yuka just settling in, getting the pace going.
I mean, look at the cadence. They're all in sync. Just as we say that, they get out of sync. But, yeah, this group is sticking together. There's Fiona right behind Seychelles. And we're seeing a crossover. There's the guys heading out and the girls heading in. They do this small, short loop, and then they take the big, long loop around the Kanoshima Park here area. We are on the Dojima River. And actually, they'll be paddling not only the Dojima River, but the Tasabori River, too. Jade Housen, 4th place in the sprints yesterday.
Yeah, Jade came in hot and made the final. And, we were kind of calling her a wild card because she has no current rankings on the APP World Tour, obviously very well known in the paddle world. So she was matched up with some of the higher draws in the sprint race. So she did really good to make that final.
Yeah, we were talking to the athletes during the awards ceremony, and Connor Baxter said the sprints are harder to do on a day like yesterday, like they did, than the distance race, because they go all out in just a short period of time. And here we go, Michael Booth. Remember, he was paddling alone. Now he's caught up to this lead train with Lincoln Dews, Daniel Suyo, Danny Ching.
Michael throwing his hat away.
Yeah.
Looks like it's maybe giving a little problem in his hair or something like that. But, yeah, what do we have here? Michael had the slow start, came off by himself. Now he's in the front.
Powering through, we see behind Danny Ching, that's world champion Arthur Arukin. There's Tituan Puyo from New Caledonia. There's Connor Baxter behind him. Noik Gerard, winner of the London Sup Overall. There's Martin Vitry, who had a breakout in the New York Sup Open. There's some Tahitians. There's the Viking. Casper was kind of 50-50 whether he was going to paddle today, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, once you told him that he's really close to being in the lead for the overall points, he was like, what? Okay, well, I'm racing tomorrow.
Well, with that win yesterday in the sprints, he's moved up from number 4 to number 2 in the world. And if he had any points in the London distance, but he said, I just couldn't paddle. He was coming off a hand injury, and he said he just had enough grip just to do the sprints. And he knew if he did the double with the distance and the sprints, he thought he would just not perform well. So he's played his marbles right. And don't the racers get a throwaway?
Yeah, they get a throwaway. So ultimately, if Casper wants to win the world title, he still has obviously an excellent chance to do that. So London would be his throwaway. He just has to do good when we get up to Paris.
Okay, back over, watching the ladies here. And back to our GPS screening here. You can see that pack. There's Fiona and April and Seychelles, Lina. Jade Housen kind of getting away from the pack. She's dropping it back a bit. We see Annie Reichardt in that second group along with Jordan Mercer, Chloe Walkerdine, Rika from Japan. And Kiyomi Shepherd from Hawaii trailing at number 11 there. And back over to the men.
Yep, so it looks like the GPS was not exactly accurate as Lina and Jade still 1 and 2, Seychelles in 3rd, Fiona in 4th, Yuka 5th. I think those are a couple men competitors that they're catching up to. And then that is, Yuka, April, and Annie hanging on to the end of that pack.
We're seeing some of the guys mid-pack right now here as our lead boat, chase boats.
You could just see all the current and swirling of the water and the bouncing.
We're in Japan, and you know we're going to the left, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got to stay on the left side, even when you're walking towards people on the sidewalk. I got to get used to that.
So you got women on the left, you got 2 men on the right here. So these lead pack, that's Annie Reichard in the back there on the NSP board. Number 21, we can also see April in front of her.
Yeah, so Annie in the back there. Right in front of her is April Zilg. Yuka Sato in front of her. Fiona Wild. Seychelles still hanging on in 3rd. And Jade still taking 2nd behind Lina. And as we've talked about, Lina loves to lead the pack. So I'm super interested. She's been leading for quite a long time now. I'm curious to see if she'll drop back and get a rest and see how that plays out.
Yeah, back to our GPS monitoring system here locally. You can see the Dojima River up north and the Tasabori River down south there. So they're paddling in both of these rivers. And no real true breakaway chain yet. I mean, this pack just about 15 minutes into this race for the men.
Yeah, and check that out. Just as you say that, it looks like they split off. There's one pack with Michael Booth and one pack, a little 3-pack with Lincoln Dews leading that one.
Well, Lincoln always seems to be the rabbit at most races, isn't he?
He definitely likes to be up front and, strike when he can. There's Chloe Walkerdine from Australia. She's going to have a lonely race, it looks like.
Back over to our lead women.
Yep,
see Annie, April, Yuka, the back 3 of this train. Lina Agaitis still leading this train. She's the power horse, too, for the women. Okay, back over to the men. You see Lincoln Dews, number 11. You see Michael Booth, number 2, leading those 2 trains. That was just Ty Judson, who we saw, number 17. Back over to the women. So we're trying to give you a little bit of a flow here between the men's and women's races. 16 minutes, 22 seconds into the men's race, just a minute behind we started the women. There's the Japanese Water Patrol back over to the men. See number 10 there, that's Isal Delgado, so he's on the tail end of that train. Ty Judson's trying to get back into this, so these guys don't want to get separated too far back from this lead group, right?
Yeah, it looks like Connor is kind of leading that second group, just about a board length out of that front draft.
Looks like Martin Vitry behind him, George Crestant. There's Casper Steinfath, number 4. Isel, 10. Ty Judson, number 17 there. And you can see the wobble in these guys.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a wonky course today. A lot of side-to-side roll, a lot of up current, down current, and swirling when you come around those corners where the 2 currents meet. Yeah, it looks like a challenging course.
Well, welcome to day number 2 action of the 2019 Osaka Sup Open, being brought to you by CNC Sunglasses, Remax Japan, and sanctioned by the International Surfing Association, the ISA. We're zooming in on our lead pack, and I mean, just look at all the names right there. You know, Boothie, Arukin, we got T2, we got Danny Ching in the mix there, Lincoln Dews, Connor Baxter, Daniel Suyo, Martin Vitry, Casper Steinfeth, Itzel, Ty Judson, George Cristance. I mean, this is a huge first group. Back over to the women, Seychelles has now moved up to number 2. Now, she had a 5th place showing in April with that big win yesterday. She had 6,000 point lead over April, but with the win from April in the sprints, she gets 10,000 points, and Seychelles with a 5th place gets 5,000 points, so she's cut that lead down to just over 1,000 points. So, I mean, the women's world rankings we thought was pretty much locked up when the first 3 wins Seychelles earned in London and New York, but now April's putting her hat in the ring and saying, it's not your title yet.
Yeah, what I'm noticing now, Bo, is there is no sight of Jade Housen in this shot. She was in 2nd place, virtual tie for first for a long time of this race, but she is not even in the top 4 from this angle that we're getting, Bo, so I'm wondering what happened to Jade.
Well, here we go. We see Lena Agaitis from Canada in the lead, Seychelles in 2nd place, Fiona Wild from Oregon in 3rd.
Looks like Yuka's nose in 4th.
Yeah, Yuka Sato is in 4th, and we saw also in this group Annie Reichardt and April Zilg. So these ladies are staying together. So, yeah, we lost out. Maybe Jordan Mercer was at the back of this pack, too, on that breakaway, but maybe her and Jade Housen are paddling together.
Well, look, we're getting the pan down and still no Jade.
There's Annie. There's
there
April. And there's Jade. Let's go down to check in with Matu. Okay, we're going to stay on this screen right here with our women. Curious where Jordan Mercer is. There she is. Oh, no, those are the guys that the women caught up. Rocking the United States pants. That's number 21. That's Rai Taguchi from Japan. And Rai was very explosive on the sprints yesterday.
Yeah, Rai had a couple good rounds in the sprints yesterday.
Finishing 7th overall, making the consolation final. And here we go, a breakaway. Michael Booth has broken the pack. And look at him rocking and rolling. He's got the dugout starboard, the 14-footer, right?
Yeah, he looks like he opted for the sprint. That's the board he usually races in all conditions. We did see him choose some new equipment in New York, but back to his faithful sprint board that he loves so much. And he's opened quite a bit of a good gap here. 2nd place, that's Daniel Hasulio and Danny Ching. Those guys are trying to ride some wash and some wakes to catch up to him.
Well, if Michael wants any chance at a APP World Titles, we're seeing Jordan Mercer. And some of our Japanese competitors. And back to the women's lead pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that pack of 8 has now turned into a pack of 6. And still, Lena Agaitis out in the lead from Canada.
Yeah, not much has changed. Lena's still grinding out in front. Seychelles in 2nd, Fiona in 3rd. And I don't want to keep harping on it, but there's no Jade Housen in that group. And
well, there he is. You know, we just went over to the GPS, and she's fallen off that train. She was in 7th place, right behind Annie Reichardt.
Yeah, Jade with such a great start. I wonder what's happening to her. Maybe having hit a wall a little bit. Maybe some jet lag catching up. Let's hope she could maybe catch up to those guys. Maybe work with someone like a Jordan Mercer to make some ground on that pack, but. The pack's paddling fast, so it's going to be a tough task for anyone to catch that group at this point.
All right, we're approaching the Tima Bashi Bridge. Ladies will be going under this bridge. So Jade Housen now trying to, I thought she was making a move there. They're going around a green marker here. Kind of overcast today. Took a look at the weather. It was 24 degrees Celsius, just about in the about 77 degrees. A bit more wind out of the northeast. There's a typhoon in the Sea of Japan between us and Korea right now, so we're going to get some rain tomorrow from that. But back to the guys here. Here we go. Lincoln Dews, Arthur Arukin. We see Tituan Puyo. We see Connor Baxter. We see Danny Ching. Danny's kind of falling back. He was up there with Lincoln earlier.
Yeah, his pace has slowed down just a bit. Looks like Tituan's going off to the side, kind of doing his own thing.
There's Fiona, Yuka, Seychelles, and Lena. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lena leading this pack. A former ISA world champion, former APP world champion also. So 22 minutes into their race here for the ladies.
Yeah, and you just got to think Lena's going to need a break sooner or later. I'm wondering if she's just hanging on too long and see how much fuel she'll have left in the tank towards the back half of this race.
Back over to the men. We saw Michael Brooke break away from this pack. Oh, and going down. Is that T2?
Yeah, T2 falls down. He was one of the guys that fell yesterday in the sprint. So Tito again playing victim to that swirling water. When the conditions are like this, just one little mental relapse, you might just get a little too relaxed and you could just get yanked off that board. Right when he was making his move too, Bo, by himself out on the outside. So we'll see how T2 recovers from that.
Okay, you can see a bulk of our paddlers are on the Tasabori River, just south of us now. And they'll be going around the Nakanoshima Park area and on down.
Yeah, so I want to say that's second, third, and fourth that we saw in that frame as we go back to the women.
Yeah, this is the top three ladies right now. With Lina Agaitis, Seychelles, and Fiona. With Yuka Sato, fourth place. See April Zilg, fifth place. Annie Reichardt, sixth place. So this pack of 8 has turned into a pack of 6. And they're using the draft chain. Here we go. We can see in the back here, Noik. And in front of him, that's Danny Ching. Who else do you see?
On the left of him is Tituan, trying to get back into the top 3. Right in front of Danny Ching, that's Daniel Hasulio. On the far right, looks like they're getting a little bit of a reverb bump off the wall.
There's George Cristance right behind Noik, and Martin Vitry just to the right off of your screen right now.
Yep, so you can see there's a little shot of Boothie out in front. So it was Boothie, Arthur Rukin, and it looked like Lincoln Dews in third. It's fun to watch along with this GPS, but it's not entirely accurate as I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Because Boothie was out in front. It shows Arthur currently in front. But
it shows Daniel running on the bridge.
Yeah, Daniel's running on the bridge.
I know.
But there we go. So that's Arthur in the top corner.
Yep.
In front of him, that's Boothie, who's in first. And on the left, that's Lincoln Dews. And it looks like maybe that could be Tituan hammering back out to fourth.
That's probably Daniel Sulio.
Yeah, Daniel's in the red on the inside.
Now we're going to throw back over to the women. Just about 26 minutes into their race.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if Lina Agaitis is going to power this train through. We're seeing a breakaway here, is that Yuka Sato getting out of the train, side drafting Fiona Wild.
Yeah, Yuka wants to get in the mix, move up to the front again. So she's side drafting Fiona. And it also gives April a positional change. She's goes up to 5th, so let's see if she can hang on. She's just out of that draft. And Lena continues to pull the whole train. She has not taken one stroke with assistance in this race yet.
Seychelles behind her. Here comes Yuka Sato moving up to 3rd. Just a half nose lead over Fiona Wild, so maybe Yuka's going to pull this train for a while.
See Connor just making his way under that bridge.
Taking a look. Number 10, is that Itzel Delgado?
Looks like that's Jackson Maynard in the back, and in front of him are the two Tahitians, Enzo Bennett and maybe the Japanese paddler.
And with this high tide, these guys have got to crunch down low so they don't hit their head on the bridge. See number 21, that's Rai Taguchi. Number 17, that's Ty Judson from Australia.
Yeah, so it's good to see local boy Taguchi in the mix with the big guns.
We'll watch these guys go under the bridge. Jackson Maynard, the back of this pack right here. Of course, he'll be coming up next month, the Nutri-Grain Ironman Series in Coolangatta Gold on the Gold Coast. Here we go. This is the men's pack. You see almost 3 different trains here.
Yeah. Yeah, a little breakaway from all those guys are worked together for quite a long time. But it looks like that ending pack is...
Is that Connor Baxter in the back?
It looks like Connor in the back, just off the tail of this final pack, and it looks like Kenny Kaneko, Itzel Delgado,
Casper,
and Casper right in front of him. So Connor having a little bit of issues, maybe hitting a little bit of a wall there.
Here we go back to our 2 Tahitians and Jackson Maynard. Jackson competed at the APP event here in Japan back in 2017 in Enoshima, where we had some gnarly sideshore winds blowing these guys. They didn't have much downwind. It was all either on their left shoulder or right shoulder, and it was one of the most difficult events. We had Mo Freitas and Connor Baxter splitting the distance in the sprints, and they actually tied, and they went to the tiebreaker. And I'll bring up that sheet and see who won that tiebreaker. The tiebreaker back in Enoshima 2 years ago was the distance race, and Connor won the distance race, and Mo won the sprint race. So, you know, stranger things has happened, in these sprints and distances that, we could have another tie. And back over to the women. And are you still seeing 6 here? There's 5 on screen.
Yeah, Annie's still there. I think I saw a little glimpse of her nose. But the top 6, and hey, there's a shot of Connor by himself now.
And he doesn't look comfortable.
He doesn't. He doesn't look comfortable is exactly the thing that came to mind. He seems to be paddling pretty slow. Maybe, who knows if he's got hurt or just his nutrition isn't up.
Well, we talked to him yesterday after the sprints, and he said he gave over 100% in the semifinals, and he just didn't have it all together for the final. So I was wondering maybe if it was too much. There's Ty Judson from Australia off to the left of Connor Baxter. Back to our lead women group. Lena Gaitis. And there's Annie Reichart. So, yeah, a train of 6.
Yeah, nothing really happening on the women's side. It's just been the virtual same this entire race.
We saw Yuka Sato try to make an attempt there, but she's fallen back into 4th behind Fiona. She was side by side to Fiona, giving it a chance to say if she could break away, but she couldn't.
Yeah, none of the women kind of giving room for other women to slide in front of them at this moment. Yeah, and Connor just looks like he's just trying to hang on, hopping right back into tie.
Zooming in, Arthur Rook and Tituan Puyo there on the GPS. We're on the Tesselbori River. They'll be going around. We actually walk every day by the Osaka museums on the way down here to the park area. Look at the low clearance that these guys have to make. There's some tall paddlers like George Christin.
Yeah, the high tide definitely, you got to go straight down the middle of these bridges. And like you're saying, a couple of these guys probably scraping their knuckles on the roof of that thing.
The beautiful scenery, the skyline here, the buildings here in Osaka. There's Jackson Maynard.
Yeah, and there's Connor. So Connor unable to hang on to even tie. So curious to see what's happening, the issues that Connor's having today. Must just be out of energy because, like you said, he did expend all his energy yesterday in that semifinal.
Yeah, well, in London, Connor had a 7th place disappointing result for himself in the sprints and a 16th in the distance in London. New York, he did a lot better. He made the final of the New York sprints in 4th, and he also had a 4th place overall in the distance. So moving back up, but you know, Connor is in it to win it, and when he's not winning it, he pulls back, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he definitely, I'm sure, wants to do better today, making that final. Yesterday, you want to finish strong in the distance to have that shot at the overall.
Connor 3rd place yesterday in the Osaka sprints. Kai Taguchi there, as we saw go under the bridge. You see the GPS train of both men and women. Back over to Connor Baxter.
Yeah, and Taguchi able to reel him in.
So right out behind Connor Baxter, a 3-time APP World Racing World Champion. Connor coming off an impressive win down in the Pan Am Games.
Yeah, that Connor's been in form lately, so this is definitely an upset. After seeing him paddle yesterday, he was definitely in my, top 5 of finishing this distance race. We go back to the women's. Lina still out in front, leading this entire race. Nothing has changed. Seychelles cozying in behind her in 2nd. That was Fiona in 3rd.
I'm surprised the other girls haven't gone out and taken the lead away from Lina.
Well, you got to imagine, like all these girls, there's a lot of chatter that happens. I'm positive they've asked her or, tried to make it happen, but she probably wants to stay down there. So if you're the other girls, you're like, okay, as long as you want to paddle and you're fine with that and leading the race, Lina, we'll just sit back behind and, pounce when we have to. So guarantee that's what's happening.
Okay, let's take another look at our GPS. Our boats are resetting on the backside of the river, so that's why we haven't been able to see. But Michael Booth has broken away from that lead pack. And you can see there's kind of like 2 other packs here behind Boothie. I think when Boothie threw off his hat, that was game on. He put it in 5th gear.
Pretty much so. He threw that hat in the water as to say, like, it's go time. And he's never looked back so far. Out in front.
And how about Arthur Arukin? I mean, the world champion from last year had a breakout in New York, winning the overall, taking the lead here, coming into Osaka, making the final of the sprints with a good command. I mean, he's looking at going to back-to-back world titles.
Yeah, Arthur, for whatever reason, kind of flies a little bit under the radar, even though he's a world champion. Quietly does the things he needs to do, and at the end of it, you're like, wow, Arthur 2nd, Arthur 3rd. I don't know why that is, but Arthur in the mix for sure.
Yeah, in London, he was sixth place in the distance, fifth place in the sprints. New York, he won the distance race and had a third place in the sprints, winning the overall in London and making fourth place yesterday in the sprints in the final and still having the lead on the world title chase here in Osaka. Now back over to the women. And no surprise, it sounds like a broken record, but Lena Agite is still pulling the women's train. And we're 38 minutes, so this is the furthest point that the men are going to be. Michael Booth will be making a left-hand turn here, and he'll be leaving the Tosabori River and rejoining the Dojima River. And there he goes, making the turn. Back over to our women. Lena Agite, Seychelles in second. Fiona Wild third. Yuka Sato fourth. I believe that's April Zil in fifth. And Annie Reichardt should be sixth. 36 minutes into their race. Let me ask you this, Dave. I know your specialty is more sup surfing than sup racing, but you design and manage a lot of these race boards. In drafting, do ever the nose and the tails bump?
Yeah, drafting is definitely a skill, and there's definitely drafting etiquette, and all these pros are all seasoned at it, obviously. And yeah, you definitely don't want to bump the person in front of you, but if you have a little daydream or a little relapse, you could hit somebody easily, and a lot of times the front person isn't anticipating that either, and you could easily knock somebody over just running into the back of them. So these women definitely have all the skills.
Let's go down to Matu on the river.
Hello, Bo and Dave. Thanks for throwing it to me. Right now I'm next to Connor Baxter, who's not having a great day today. I'm going to ask Stuart to turn around and film this. Connor Baxter is currently sitting behind Rai Taguchi. He's probably 500 meters behind the top guys, the front of the pack. So he's actually having a very slow day in comparison to yesterday when he finished third in the sprints. Connor made a very interesting return to the top of the rankings in the last few races, but today is not really having it. As you can see, Rai Taguchi is a 15-year-old rider from Zamami Island in Japan, and who is a really good sprinter as well. But to see Connor sitting so far back is, I thought, was an interesting fact to share with you guys. And behind Connor, we've got Enzo Bennett, the Tahitian champ from 425 Pro, who's also having a pretty slow day today. George Kronstedt is actually up front. He's the first Tahitian of the whole 425 Pro in today's race. And we'll be able in a few minutes to catch up with the front of the pack and give you an update on the front. Back to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Matu. Thanks for the great reporting job. Yeah, so he's picking up the same vibes, and he's hanging out there with Connor. So he sees Connor Baxter not at his best. So, maybe a little bit under the weather, maybe what we talked about. He went all out yesterday in the semis and the final. But back to our women's lead train, and still no difference from 1 through 6 here. Lena, Seychelles, Fiona, Yuka, April, and Annie. So 39 minutes into the women's race. Yep, 40 minutes into the women's race right now. All right, Dave, I'm going to put that competitor's hat. You're in this train. You're 40 minutes into the race. When do you break away? When does one of these ladies make a move? Do they wait to the end? Do they do it, on the turnaround when they come back? I mean, there's a game plan amongst one of these six, and one of these six is going to break out and take the win.
Yeah, you got to think that Seychelles, Fiona, and even Yuka, as long as Lena is okay with them being there, they're going to sit there until the very end. There really isn't that much of a reason to try to do that. Just conserve your energy. I'm sure there's some communication going on, and Lena wants to be there. Um, it is hard to pass people in these tight kind of corners. So maybe that's Lena's strategy is like, hey, I'm going to try to lead the front. This is the best spot for me to have a shot at winning and try to keep it tight around the corners.
We're seeing Lena guide us in the Sonova dugout board, and the SIC as Seychelles is more of a flat bottom.
Yeah, just two different board designs. The SIC is more of an all-around shape, and I believe that's the flat water shape for Sonova. And Fiona on that starboard sprint, which is their flat water design. But even though Lena's been leading out for so long, I guaranteed she's doing different percentages in output. She probably, winds it down and brings it back up. You see a shot of Danny Ching and George Cronstedt working together.
There's Anthony Vela, our race coordinator, keeping an eye on the guys. 44 minutes into their race.
Yeah, and I want to say Danny Ching is not looking himself as well. He came out really strong in the beginning. When he has a good start like that, it's very hard for him to drop back like that. I'm wondering if he's having some issues or some fatigue from yesterday as well.
Here we go, Chloe Walkerdine from Australia on the Infinity Blackfish.
Yeah, Chloe going through the paces.
And who's that behind her on the dashboard?
I believe that's the Japanese rider from yesterday.
Rika?
I believe that was Rika.
Rika
Yes.
Okuakai. Okay, here's our lead six ladies.
Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, the ladies' draft train has basically been the same the entire length of this race so far. So,
well, check this out. We're looking at our GPS, and Tituan Puyo, who we saw fall off earlier, may have taken the lead away from Michael Booth.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't got a good look of the front pack this race. So we're relying on this GPS, which hasn't been entirely accurate. So judging from that, it does seem like T2 out in the lead, Michael Booth in second.
There's a fish jumping out of the water. Trying to check out the guys here. All right, back to our women. You know what? I think this pack of six is going to go all the way to the end, and someone at the last second is going to break out of this six and take it.
Sooner or later, you're going to see a break off, and it's just who has the most left in the tank, who could ride that wash and get over those bumps and make a move. But if you're Seychelles, I mean, you got to be feeling good. You're sitting in a draft in second place. I would look for Seychelles. Seychelles and Fiona, I would say, have a really good chance to win this race.
What about April? You know, she came off that big win at New York City. I mean, she's in the group here, coming off. You know, she's won the last two APP events if you count the sprints from yesterday in Osaka and the distance race in New York City about 2 weeks ago.
Yep, and if you're April and Yuka, you're going to want to make a move here sooner to get closer to that front pack.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the mid-pack of the guys here. Looks like Lincoln Dews, Danny Ching. No, that's not Lincoln. That's somebody else in the striped pants. Seeing crossover men and women here. Now, I understand men can't draft women and women can't draft men, correct?
Yeah, gender-only drafting is allowed.
So that's why you're seeing all the 6 of these ladies side by side. And if any of the race officials see the crossover happening, they can incur, what, a penalty on time?
Yeah, I believe it's if there are drafting rules that get caught, it is a minute penalty, which in racing is huge. Good shot of Ty Judson there, mid pack.
Ty's going under this bridge. See who's with him. He was with just ahead of Danny Ching earlier. And how about Annie Reichart hanging with this group of 6 in that backpack?
Yeah, Annie, in the lead pack, she's doing exactly what she wants to do. She loves the sprinting.
So Martin Fatry leading in this group here. Back over to our women. Lena Aguyde is still out in front of the ladies, 46 minutes into their race, 48 minutes into the men's race.
Yeah, and I would have expected a little bit more, trying to break away, a little bit more maneuvering than we've seen today out of the women. They've just been content sitting exactly how you see them right here.
Well, Boothie and T2, looks like Boothie has regained the lead as they merge back onto the Dojima River, excuse me. And look at Boothie getting some distance away from Titouan Pouillot. Arthur Rukin, Lincoln Dews, 3rd, 4th. See Daniel Sulio, Ty Judson. Is that Ixel Delgado? Yeah.
Ixel's in the mix right there.
Yeah.
In the top 10 at the moment.
There's a big pack. Kenny Kaneko's in that pack. Casper Steinfath, Noik. George Cristanti's in the market right now. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to be in the water. Got to get some strobe lights, for under the bridges next year. Put that in the budget, Si. Get some disco balls, light up the bridges when we go under here. All right, Si's writing that down. Strobe lights. So Lena Aguyde, she's second there. Out in front of her, that's one of the men. Let's go down to Matu and check in down on the river.
Thank you, Bo and Dave. A little update on the men's. We're just behind the top 5 guys. It's Michael Booth up front, and the chase is on for Titouan Pouillot, who managed to break away from the rest of the chasing pack. So we have a situation where we have 2 men at the front, Michael and Titouan, the Australian and the New Caledonian up front, with Titouan sitting around 50 meters behind Michael Booth, 300 meters behind them. It's a big battle for the top, the 3rd place, and that's happening between Arthur Aritkin, Daniel Sulio, and Lincoln Dews. Behind those 3 guys, we have a chasing group of around 7-8 guys, led right now by Ty Judson, the Australian rider from NSP, followed by George Kronstadt, Martin Vitry, Kenny Kaneko, Itzel Delgado, Casper Stenfast is here in the mix. That's great to see that. Danny Ching is falling a little behind. I have to say I'm really impressed by what Ty Judson is doing right now, because about 10 minutes ago he was actually really far back, so he managed to crawl back to catch this chasing pack, and now he's actually leading it with a pretty good pace. I can see George Kronstadt doing really well right now. He's sitting in 7th position. Ty is in 6th. George is in 7th. Martin is in 8th. Itzel Delgado 9th. Kenny Kaneko 10th. And Casper Stenfath, who now knows he's got something to do today, keeping together in the long distance in order to keep a great ranking, because he's currently 2nd after his win in the sprint yesterday. Over to you, boys.
All right, great reporting there from Matu from Total Sup. So he gave us the breakdown of the lead pack between Michael and Tijuan. There's a second pack and even a third pack on the men's. Totally different race from the women.
Yeah, this is the third pack we're watching right here, but Michael Booth indeed out in front. Tituan, though, remember he had that fall. He fell down to about 8th place, so Tituan grinded it out in a second place by himself at the moment, chasing down Boothie.
And here we go. Our pack of 6 for the women has not changed since the beginning of this race, and they are 50 minutes into their race. The men are roughly about 53 minutes into their race, so we're on the stretch of coming home, and I believe as they come down, they'll have to make one more loop around the small little island.
Yeah, they make that loop and then come back under the bridge and finish through the bridge. So if these women are this close on that final turn, it's going to get real crowded in there, and it'll be interesting to see how much they just stay in this position.
I walked by that. That's a subway entry exit there on the bridge there. On the side. And back over to the men. Let's see if we can identify this group. This is that third group, the heavy group.
Yeah, it does look like the camera boat is sticking with this mid-pack right here to get a shot of the women's and kind of the mid of the men's field. But, yeah, that's that group led by Ty Judson still. I believe Ty is in about 6th or 7th place at that moment.
Back over to our women. Nothing has changed. We saw Yuka try to break away maybe a half hour ago, but she fell back into 4th place.
Yeah, I really am surprised there hasn't been more of a shakeup with just, with the women. They've stayed exactly the same the entire race. If you're April, winner of the sprints yesterday, you got to think she's got to start thinking to be making
maybe
a move.
She's conserving her energy there in 5th place and holding out for the end to break away and to win this race.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what she's doing is, conserving the whole time. But sooner or later, I mean, you're in 5th place right there. It's going to be hard to get top 3 in that position if it came down to the final sprint. Annie, I'm sure, is probably stoked where she's at. She's been pretty quiet back there. But, just if you're April, you won the sprints. I mean, you're in the driver's seat to win the overall. And just curious, there hasn't been some side drafting to try to make it at least into 3rd and kind of cozy in over there. But the women's field has stayed exactly the same the entire race, which is super interesting.
Well, Annie Reichardt comes into Osaka, world number 4 on the APP World Tour. So she knows she wants to keep that 4th ranking and even move up. She had an excellent day yesterday, 2nd in the sprints behind April. And here we go to some of our men paddling.
Looks like Boothie, so they got a shot on Boothie, and that's Tituan in the foreground under the bridge, so Boothie's got a huge lead at this point.
So Michael Booth powering through here. Maybe he'll pick up his hat that he threw off.
Hey, there's
just
our
down
boat
there.
in the background.
Yeah, that boat off to the left. That's where we're broadcasting from.
So does Boothie have like a half a loop left?
I think he's got a right-hand turn and a second right-hand turn, and he'll be coming around over the arch. So, yeah, he's on the home stretch. Here we go back to the women. Dojima River now.
Tituan in second.
Yeah, looking good, looking strong. So the 2 dugout boards from Starboards first, NSP second here with Tituan. And Lena Agaida still leading this train. Well, this is her race to lose. I mean, she's been the power horse, and, she's been the one pulling all these ladies.
I would have loved to see Lena at least share that lead at some point during this race. But this is what she wants to do. And, I mean, how can you complain? You're in the front.
Yeah, and that's where she wants to be.
But pay very close attention to Seychelles and Fiona. They've just been sitting there waiting to make their move. And if I'm Seychelles, I am just frothing for that moment.
But don't count out Fiona, April, Yuka, Annie, because they're part of this train. Okay, 55 minutes into the women's race, about 57 minutes into the men's race, and we are getting close. We can hear just outside the announcer getting the crowd all excited as we've already seen a couple of the men pass by the finish line area. The women are approaching. One of the taller freeway bridges now they're going under. And still no breakaway from the women. All right, you're 56 minutes into this race, and you've been in that position in this train. I mean, it's coming down to the end because no one has broken away yet.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most interesting races I've seen in a while where there's been no shifting of placings the entire race. Lena just content to pull this train. She looks over her shoulder a couple times right there. I haven't seen her do that all race, so there must be some communication going on, or she must be sensing a move here soon, and maybe she's going to try to veer them off, maybe try to block them, so to speak. But she was probably just curious who's coming up on her left, and it's that men's competitor. So,
okay, going back to our men's race here, there's Arthur Arukin, Lincoln Dews, and who is that? Daniel Julio?
Yeah, this has got to be the race for third, fourth, and fifth, as we saw Michael and Tituan quite a bit ahead. So, Arthur, Lincoln, and Daniel fighting for third, fourth, and fifth.
Okay, so they're on the outer reaches there, so they're just moments away. We're exactly 1 hour into the men's race. They'll be going just a short staging up this area, right-hand turn, and then into the finish line arch. So they are close. So that means Michael Booth, and you can see Michael Booth and Tituan Puyol up there, and there's some separation there. And we saw on that first pass by that Boothie was what, maybe 50 meters, 60-meter lead on Tituan?
Yeah, unless something really strange happens, Boothie's going to run away with this. Tituan's going to be comfortably in second as well. So,
but look at Arthur, Lincoln, and Daniel. These guys are powering through right now.
Yep, and see a lot different from the women's draft train. Arthur on the side keeping his strike. You know, he could strike from the side easier than from the back. So, as we see Michael out by himself.
Well, he'd be making a right-hand turn right here. You can see the people running.
Yeah, here's the finish line. So
yeah,
Boothie.
The finish line's just ahead right now.
Boothie's celebrating already. He's got to make it through those arches, but he knows Boothie's going to take away with the win here in the distance race. Osaka, Japan, and see Connor passing him, but Boothie, what a performance.
Yeah.
Out on himself.
1:01:24 unofficially there. We're seeing back over to the women. And Dave, I just can't believe no one has broken away from this train. And back to third, 4, 5, and now Arthur Arukin is now making a move on Lincoln Dews.
Yep, there's Tituan finishing in second. So Tituan by himself. What a great race by Tituan. He had a spill even back in top 8. He was in the 8th, 9th position, but solo second.
Well, Boothie with 10,000 points in that win, 8,000 points going to Tituan. You know, there's some valuable points here, third, 4, 5. And it looks like Arthur Arukin, he wants that third place. Making the turn here.
Yep, so it looks like Arthur was able to edge out Lincoln, even though he had the inside line at this final turn. So it's going to be a third place Arthur, fourth place Lincoln Dews. Daniel Julio trying to make a last-minute push, but he's going to finish in fifth.
Look at Lincoln. He is spent. He sits down on his board. and still no change in the women's race here. I I think Lina Agaitis, she's going to win this thing from start to finish.
She's been in the lead the entire time, Bo. She has not taken one stroke, assisted by a draft. And as we saw, the turns are pretty tight around the corners here. So if the women want a shot at winning this race, they got to make their move before they get to that corner. It'll be really hard to pass someone at those final two turns.
Okay, here comes the women. And Lina Agaitis, Seychelles, Fiona, Yuka Sato from Japan, 4th. April Zilg, 5th. Annie Reichardt, 6th. Has not changed in the past hour. There was just that one, maybe half hour ago, 40 minutes ago, Yuka Sato broke away, and she was going for a change, but she fell back into the 4th place spot. So there's Martin Vitry, George Crestance finishing up. Boy, this women's race, as boring as this train is super exciting because no one has broken away yet, and there's going to be a breakaway soon.
Yeah, it's just really interesting how it's played out. I'm not surprised Lina's in the lead. She is known to like to lead the race, but it's rare you see that someone doesn't take over at least for a little bit or side draft and kind of help. I'm sure they've been talking about it. I'm sure Fiona even back then is like, all right, ladies, who wants to lead? But they've been content staying exactly where they are.
I see Casper Steinfath. I see Ilsa Delgado. So these guys have finished up their races. And back to our women. And their cadence, still the long stroking, not the sprint breakaway.
Yeah, and Lina's kind of stayed with that exact rhythm. There's never really been a surge on a bump to try to separate or anything like that. It's just been straight up grinding. I'm still very surprised there isn't any side drafting going on.
Yeah.
They're just staying in the zone. And Lina, at this point, has got to be wondering when they're going to make their move. She knows it's coming. I'm sure she's a little, maybe confused. Like, all right, well, no one's tried to. Are they just going to let me walk away with this, or, what's happening?
Someone's going to make a move here.
And just look at that. Seychelles is just cruising.
Yeah.
She is just cruising on that wake of Lina. There's a lot of energy we can conserve this whole time.
Well, she's kind of gotten away from the train here. Fiona's behind Seychelles, so maybe this is the move that we're seeing. Seychelles is now broken away from Lina Agaitis, and everyone's following Seychelles right now.
Well, here it comes. Seychelles hops out of Lina's draft, hops into the side draft. Fiona following her. So Seychelles chose to get on the side draft on the inside as well. So look for her to make a move before the corner and try to beat Lina to the corner so she could squeeze into that first position.
Take that inside position?
Exactly, and maybe even perhaps slide Fiona to 3rd or 4th. You see April on the inside now,
here
too.
we go. Yuka, April.
Look, there goes.
There they go. Here's the breakaway. We've been waiting for this. And look at Seychelles, Fiona, and Yuka. And Seychelles is now taking the lead. For the first time, Lina Agaitis is not leading the distance race. And we are 103.59 into this race. And out behind her, Fiona Wild in 2nd. So there's the breakaway. An hour 4 into the race.
Yep, we know what this would happen, but look at Seychelles. She looks fresh as can be. Fiona's looking really strong as well, and Lina just dropping back slowly. Curious why she didn't hop in behind Seychelles at least.
Well, because Fiona was there. And look at Yuka Sato. She's trying to break away from Fiona.
Lina's being a little friendlier than I would expect her to be and just relinquishing that lead to go down to 4th. If we're and Yuka's in 3rd, so it's interesting here. If you're Seychelles, you played it exactly how you wanted to. And she is looking fresh and determined and strong. Fiona right there.
And look at the cadence now. Lena Agaitis is she in this train or is she still kind of off of it?
She's in fourth right there,
Yeah.
just out of screen. So Seychelles, Fiona.
Well, they're right behind us, Ray. We're at the Rose Garden right now. So they'll be making that last small island loop here as the finish line area you're going to shortly see. That's the beer garden. And here comes the girls. Still 6 trained girls. But this time now led by Seychelles. Fiona Wild in second. Yuka Sato from Japan in third. Lena Agaitis from Canada was in first, now in fourth. And you can hear the cheers now. And April. So she didn't break away into this pack. And Annie Reichardt's right there, and she's trying to break away right now. So you almost have a pack of 3 and a pack of 3 now.
Yeah, unfortunately for April, she got caught behind Lina, who's, starting to get tired, obviously. She would have loved to be on the side of that and stay with this draft train, but look at Annie. Annie made a move around April and Lina. So Annie Reichhardt goes from
6th to 4th place. And Seychelles and Fiona is just right there. Fiona's got the power to take over the lead here. And April's down to 6. Now remember, Seychelles had a 5th place showing in the sprints yesterday. April won the sprints. So if it finishes like this with April in 6th place and Seychelles in first, Seychelles could win the overall Osaka Open.
Well, it's looking really good for Seychelles right now. She's in the lead. She's looking fresh. And like you're saying, with April in the back of this train, and this is the final, straight part they have to this race. So if there's any movement going to be happening, it's got to happen right now, because once they come around that corner, it's
and look
impossible.
How fresh Fiona and Seychelles looking. Look at the cadence they're putting into their strokes. Obviously increasing here towards the end. We're at 107.20 into their race. The men, Michael Booth finishing at 101.24 unofficially. And Lena Agaitis and April Zilg. And Annie Reichhardt was wise to break away from 6th and keep on to that sprint that these girls were pushing on the breakaway.
Yep, and April, she's got to be thinking at this point at least 5th place. So she knows Seychelles in first, so she's got to see it's going to come down to a tiebreaker if she could capture that 5th place.
Not another tiebreaker. Oh, my God. I don't even want to think about that. All right, let's think about this right now. Seychelles winning the distance in London, winning the sprints in London, a 2 for 2, and then coming into New York, winning the sprints, and then coming in, Seychelles for the distance was 4th place in the distance in New York. April won the distance in New York, and she won the sprints yesterday in Osaka. But right now, looking for her 4th win. And this will be one more turn coming after this one into the finish line area. And Lena and April are away from this pack of 6 that have been together for over an hour. And now Annie Reichardt's starting to fall back. So the top 3 are taken away. And look at Seychelles. She's broken away from Fiona Wild and Yuka Sato.
Yep, and they got one kind of veering right-hand turn. So this is the final chance to try to make your moves. Looks like it's going to be really hard to catch Seychelles at this part. She is just around the corner from the finish line. Let's see if Yuka Sato can make a final push to catch Fiona. Annie's right there too. She's still looking strong, just in 4th place.
Oh, she looks strong. She looks strong. So she calculated, here it goes. This is the last right-hand turn for the ladies. Here comes Fiona Wild. She's making a push right now. Can Fiona catch her? Maybe on the inside.
Well, this is going to be her final chance. She's got to let it all out.
And she's creeping up on Seychelles right now. Here goes the push from Fiona. But now Seychelles is putting some distance on Fiona. And look how strong she looks after an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, Seychelles staying really tight to that wall, so even if Fiona catches up to her, she's got to go all the way around the outside. So Seychelles definitely striking when she needed to. Really well managed race on her part. Fiona's still reading some bumps and kind of making little moves here. But I just don't think there's enough runway.
One more inside turn and then into the finish line. Seychelles first, Fiona Wild second, Yuka Sato third right now, Annie Reichardt in fourth, and here we go, the last turn for Seychelles, and she can see the finish line. And it looks like this is the area where the sprints races were yesterday, so she knows the format here, under the bridge, under the arc. .111, we'll call it. She is excited. Woo! So Fiona second, Yuka Sato third, Annie Reichardt fourth, and Lena Gaitis was in fifth. So we've got to see.
you see Seychelles counting the
Yeah.
standings, so she knows that April finished sixth, I believe. Oh no, she beat Lena. So
she beat Lena,
fifth.
so she did make the move. So she goes up to fifth, and Lena Gaitis, who was leading that pack of six, goes into sixth place. She was probably just spent.
Yeah, so
the other five ladies just rode her to the end, and she's just got exhausted at the end.
yeah, and I mean these guys have been doing this a long time. She knew that was coming. She knew it was happening. So you just got to think that's what she wanted to do and felt that was her best way to try to win this race. Fortunately for her, she dropped down to sixth place. All the other women who drafted her the whole time were able to pass her, and it looks like we're going to have a tiebreaker. So I don't know what.
You had to throw in the tiebreaker because each girl's got a first and a fifth.
Yep.
Because Seychelles got a fifth in the sprints yesterday, where April won, and April got a fifth in the distance today, where.
Yeah, Seychelles got first and a fifth. April has a first and a fifth. I don't know which one is going to weigh more heavy on the results, the sprint versus the distance, because I know it switches from venue to venue. So we'll have to wait and see.
And also, thinking of the men, Michael Booth had a ninth yesterday on the sprints and a first in the distance. Let's see, Casper, he won the sprints, and not quite sure where Casper came out on his draw, but if he's ninth or better, he could have the overall.
Well, Casper was right there. He was either 8, 9, 10, or 11.
Yeah,
I know
he was in that group that, we couldn't see finish. Aloha, my name is Bo Hodge. This is Dave Bainey. Welcome to stop number 3 of the 2019 APP World Tour. We're in Osaka, Japan for the racing, and we just seen some exciting racing for both the men and women. Congratulations to Michael Booth winning the men's race and Seychelles Webster winning the women's race in an exciting form. It was a long, drawn-out train from Lena Agaitis leading those ladies for over an hour, and Seychelles made her move. Fiona jumped on that train. Yuka Sato jumped on that train. And how about Annie Reichardt going from 6 and keeping on that lead train of 4?
Yeah, and he's got to be stoked at that. She had a really good weekend, making top 4 in both races. So Annie's feeling really good. And what about Boothie and Tituan basically breaking away from everybody and having excellent races on their side? Boothie breaking away, paddling by himself, and winning by quite a large margin. And Tituan did have that spill where he dropped back to like 6th, 7th, or 8th. And able to make his way to the front and finish in second all by himself. What an incredible showing for him.
Yeah, we haven't put in all the numbers here yet, but we'll crunch the numbers down. And here we go. Michael Booth, Tituan Puyo, 1-2, Arthur Arukin, The world champion number 3, Lincoln Dews 4, Daniel Hosulio from Hungary 5, George Crestant goes up to 6, Martin Vitry from France 7th, Ty Judson 8th, Casper Steinfath 9th. So both Michael Booth and Casper. So we have a tie for the men and women. Here's the rest of the men with Itzel in 11th, Danny, Noik, Rai, Enzo, Connor, Ricky, Henry, Jackson, Soyu. Wow. And Ollie from New Zealand, 21st. Look at these guys and these girls. That was Lena Agaitis. So we have a tie. Look at Lena. She spent. She says, what just happened?
Yeah, Lena's
I was leading this race for over an hour, and it got away from me. She's just devastated right now. There's your top women. 106. So Seychelles was only 5 minutes behind Michael Booth. That's amazing. Now, that time's not really correct. I had more 111, so I don't think that 106. So the girls were about 10 minutes behind Michael Booth. So
Yeah.
Fiona, Yuka, Annie, April, wow. Just as we saw in some of our other racers now coming across.
And there's Jade Housen. We haven't mentioned Jade in quite a while. Jade was out in front with Lena for a good portion of this race. We checked back in with the men and then came back and Jade was gone. So Jade seemingly hitting the wall at some point in this in this race. So she's finishing up right now. Love to get down there and talk to Jade and talk to Lena and see where their mind state's at.
Well, let's see here. Just crunching the numbers for the men, putting in the distance results. And we've got a new leader in the men's race as we head to Paris. Michael Booth has just overtaken Arthur Arukin by 250 points. 38,500 to 38,250. Now, I'm not the official numbers cruncher and the manager of the APP World Tour, but I've got my spreadsheet here, and it looks like Michael Booth will be wearing the yellow jersey, the green jersey, or whatever jersey they give him in France. And don't forget, the heavy water, the Red Bull heavy water will play in action if we have 20-foot surf or better in the end of October, early November over at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, where they'll be paddling under the Golden Gate Bridge into that big gnarly surf zone, in and out. Casper Steinfath won that event 2 years ago, Connor Baxter in the years past, and Kai Lenny. So, but yeah, we have a new world number 1, Michael Booth, with that win, and him and Casper, we have to find out what is the tiebreaker. Is it the distance race? I think the distance race may outpoint the sprint race, but we'll have to check in with Tristan Boxter to find that out. Number 3 will be Casper Steinfath, 32,500 points. Now let's check the women's racing and see how Seychelles and April. Oh, well, there you go. 50,750 for Seychelles, 44,500. So where April got within 1,000 points yesterday in the sprints, that 5,000 point separation, because Seychelles gets 10,000 points for the win here in the distance, and April in 5th gets 5,000 points. So again, heavy waters in play, the sprints in Paris, the distance in Paris. So Seychelles will be leading. We can see Fiona Weil will still be in 3rd place. Maybe, is that Annie Reichardt? Annie Reichardt and Yuka Sato. So just the way it finished here on the race today, Seychelles, April was 5th. April is still in 2nd. Fiona 3rd. Annie Reichardt 4th. And Yuka Sato still in 5th place.
Yeah, so a little shuffling in the standings. You know, obviously it's super important to get those wins because you get so many points.
Oh.
You get 5,000 more points than 2nd place.
Well, 2nd place is actually 8,000 points.
Okay.
But the distance between Seychelles and April was a 1st and a 5th.
Gotcha.
Which
Yeah.
is a full 5,000
Right,
points.
right.
So it is very top heavy on the points if you win, and it should be, because you don't want 2nd place to have 9,999 points, just a
Right.
point behind. So
Right.
there's a 2,000 point separation, but between April and Seychelles there's a 5,000 point separation because one was 1st, one was 5th, both today and yesterday.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So, yeah, I can't wait to get into the athletes area and just pick their brain a little bit and see how that race went. It was such an interesting women's race, even though it was like, boring at looking at it from the standings of them just staying there the whole time. But it's super fun how it shaked out with the points. I just want to see, where their headspace is and see how that was going. And the men's was pretty rad. Michael
and we got
Booth,
a tie there too between Casper and Michael Booth.
Yeah, which
first
is
of the
incredible.
ninth.
Like, Casper barely cares about these distance races, but now that he knows he's in the mix of the title,
Okay.
he
Just
cares.
got word we got Matu down Riverside. Let's check in with him. He's got our winners.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you,
Matu,
Dave.
can you hear us?
I'm here with Michael, the big champion of the day. Victorious in London, second in New York, and now victorious again in Japan, in Osaka. Congratulations. Take us through your race.
Christian.
Yeah, I actually had a really bad start.
So,
just really bumpy.
Booth
I didn't really
back to
expect it
us.
to be, so I just sort of just stayed consistent. I think I thought about like the Germany race
Booth
the other week. I did, and I sort of
to us,
just like
to
warmed into the
Seychelles.
race, like gradually got back to the front, and
Then back to
looking
us, and then we
forward,
close.
Like at the can, I attacked then and just sort of stayed in front from there. And
Oh.
but yeah, there was a lot of wash.
a soft
on the
close.
wake and, just really happy to take the win.
So yeah, you decided to break away really early, and that worked really well. You were really quickly up front. But Titouan tried to chase you through the second part of the race. How did that go with that battle with Titouan?
Yeah, Titouan was very strong. Like there was, as I said, like there was a lot of like boats, traffic going through, so it made there a lot of wake. And Titouan's obviously a little bit better than me and that sort of stuff. So I had to fight really hard to stay in front when the tide was going the other way because the wake would really stand up.
50 of those
And then
in
coming
a
back this way, I was just
special
able to grind and just count my strokes and just stay in front. So yeah, starting to come across the line first.
Hey, we need
Right,
to
as soon as you crossed the finish line, I saw you were doing some math with Casper, calculating your points in this weekend's rankings, but also in the overall rankings. Do you have an idea where you are right now?
Well, Casper and I tied first for the overall for the weekend, so I'm waiting to see what the countback is on who gets the overall and the prize money for this weekend. But I think I'm leading the overall series now by 250 points to Arthur. So cool to wear the yellow jersey going to Paris, but it's going to be very interesting when we get on the Nordic crossing.
Absolutely, and we'll be there to watch the action for sure. Congratulations, Michael. Back to you, boys. I'll try and find a Seychelles in a few minutes.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Matu. And, boy, as static as he looks, I mean, now number one heading into Paris for the final event. I mean, he's the European Tour winner. Might as well add an APP World Championship.
It's basically Michael and everybody else. Michael is just so hard to beat. Obviously, when he's in the zone, he's impossible to beat. I mean, for someone to go out on his own and do that and win the race by himself, we see him do it time and time again. Michael is just an animal, and it's no surprise that he's in the lead for the rankings.
Well, he was in the lead in New York until he fell down towards the end.
Yeah, so it's the only time you could beat him is when he makes a mistake.
Yeah,
it seems.
So sometimes he's his own worst enemy. And this time he was not an enemy. He was just powering through. When we saw him throw out his hat, he really put it in fifth gear, and he held that lead. And Titouan Pouliot, who also fell down, made a charge there for second place. So that was pretty exciting. So we're just getting word. We're going to get back down to the Riverside and check in with Matu, and I believe he's got Seychelles.
Thank you again, Bo and Dave. I've managed to find Seychelles. She is here with me. Congratulations, Seychelles, the big winner of the day. You wanted to have that really bad. This is your fourth APP World Tour victory this year. You had a bit of an upset yesterday, and you were really eager to win this today.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm over the moon. I'm so happy right now. So I raced really smart today, and it was a tough race, but also a fast race, and I don't really know what was happening behind me. I just focused on staying in the position I was in, and I knew when I was going to make my move, and it just all, when you stay in the moment, it works out.
Did you actually break away or were you leading the race most of the time? How did that play with you?
Yeah, so Lena was leading almost the whole time, and she likes leading. And there was some communication we had. I think a long train of women, but again, I didn't really look back. But Lina was happy to lead, checked in with her several times, so of course I was happy to just stay in her wash, and then made a move just before the island here and started sprinting, didn't look back, and yeah.
Did the water conditions have any impact on your race? What about the wind? We felt a few gusts of winds also during the race. Did that influence any of your racing?
Not really. I mean, it wasn't super windy. It was just gusty here and there. So it wasn't like a really long grind upwind. It was like, okay, a little bit of wind, and then it would cut out. And actually, going with the wind, it's quite hot. We were sweating, and then you turn, you go upwind, and it cools you down. So in a way, if you think about the positive like that, like, okay, I'm going upwind, but now I'm cool, then that helps you mentally, with that condition. So I think the wash, all the boat wakes and board wakes, I mean, it was just, the water was like crazy, and that was way more challenging than the little bit of wind that we had. So.
Yep. One last question, Seychelles. Michael did the math on his points for the rankings. Did you?
I haven't done the math on the overall points. But I know that I'm in the same position as Michael, where I had 5th yesterday and 1st today, and April 1st yesterday and I believe 5th today. So we're tied for overall points. I don't know which the tiebreaker, distance or sprints. Of course, I hope it's the distance, but we'll find out. In all cases, Paris looks like it's going to be a very, very interesting final, a big final, and of course, Total Sup will be there at the 4th and last stop of the APP World Tour, and that's happening at the beginning of December. Thank you, Bo and Dave. We're having a lot of a great time here in Osaka, and over to you. Arigato gozaimasu.
How excited is she?
She's stoked. I mean, coming away with the win, that's got to feel good, especially like how she said.
Yeah.
She said Lena let her stay there the whole time, and she made her move when she had to do it. So that's how these things go, and she took advantage of it.
And she's taking advantage of this opportunity to win a world title. One more stop yet to go, and don't forget the Red Bull Heavy Water Challenge. Dates for that will be between October 15th and November 8th, on that one day that there's 20-foot size face on the surf over in Northern California, Central California there, and we'll be on just south of the Golden Gate Bridge, and that'll be a gnarly race, and the women will be invited. They had a little social media protest, and they wanted to be included, and thus they are included. So I can't wait to see that, and we're going to see some of the top men and women paddlers from around the world take on, kind of like an Eddie Aikau type event. If the surf is there and it's during the holding period, game on for a one-day event.
Yeah, and I hope it runs. We didn't run it last year, so it's going to definitely be a crowd pleaser, so to speak. And to see the women finally get invited and see how they do, it's going to be one to watch for sure.
And don't forget about the rest of the APP World Tour. Barbados will be the next stop for the SUP Surfers, coming up November 9th through the 17th. And then Paris, the SUP Open finale, coming up in December 7th through the 8th. And then the SUP Surfing finale back into the Grand Canaries in December the 11th through the 18th. So still a lot more action happening on the APP World Tour with the Red Bull, with the Barbados Pro-Am, with the Grand Canaries, and of course the Paris SUP Open.
Yeah, the back half of this season is pretty stacked with some good events, and to top it off with the Red Bull Heavy Water would be amazing.
It's been an exciting day. We've seen two type of races. We saw the breakaway from Michael Booth. Pretty much it was by himself. We saw the train of six led by Lena Agaitis, and Seychelles breaking about an hour 4 into that race. And, the last 7 minutes, she was the leader.
Yeah, I mean, the racing was fun to watch. Boothie, no surprise there. The real race was second, third, and fourth. Boothie's so far in front. The action was who was going to finish second, third, fourth, and fifth. So that was fun to watch. And the women's race, was kind of like a slow, methodical one. But in the end, it turned out Seychelles on top. And, another day at the races, Bo.
Top 5 men, Michael Booth winning at an unofficial time, 101.24. Tijuan Puyo from France in second place. Arthur Arukin, the world champion, defending world champion for 2018 on the APP World Tour, broke away from his train and beat Lika Duz and Daniel Osulio for 3, 4, and 5. And for the women, Seychelles first, Fiona Wild second, Yuka Sato from Japan third. How excited is she?
She's got to be stoked. She was in like that 4th, 5th position the entire way, and ended up finishing in the top 3. So Yuka, I know she's fired up.
April Zilk right behind Annie Reichardt for 4th and 5th, and Lena Legaitis, who was leading 99% of this race, goes from 1st to 6th place, and she'll regroup and she'll be ready for Paris.
Yeah, well, Lena, she's not racing as much. She's a mother, and for her to come out here and bring her whole family and do that well, I mean, she in hindsight, she's got to be pretty stoked with her performance.
Okay, just checking. We may throw down to Matu. He's got, he's been trying to get all the interviews going down, and so he's hustling up somebody. I wonder who he's going to get next. But yeah, I think the rest of the year is going to play out good. I mean, we've had a good summer in Hawaii of surf, and the El Nino usually creates big waves for Hawaii. How does it do for the Northern California area?
It's been fun. The water's been warm, and this time of year is kind of the best time of year. Everyone's back in school. We get the southern hemi still. The water's still warm, and yeah, I can't wait to get home and catch some waves before the next event.
Well, just trying to pray if El Nino is going to give us that swell for San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean that's what's on tap. That's what everyone's starting to talk about. So, if the swell comes in, obviously Ocean Beach brings in all those types of swells, and it'll get big quick.
Well, Casper Steinfath won the event back in 2017. We saw Cody Kerbox and who was it?
Ryan Funk.
Ryan Funk from Maui. Yeah, I mean, those guys were playing the safety zone where Kai Linney and Connor Baxter and Zane Schweitzer, they were charging the waves, and they just were getting pounded by the 20-foot surf. And so that's the element that brings up into that race. It's like having the old Battle of the Paddle or the PPG on steroids, with that short break.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I did the very first one, and I didn't make it past the wave portion of it. Broke my leash, broke my board, and, no leash, no board, your race is over. And last year there's even more broken waves.
Oh, my God.
I mean, broken boards. So Red Bull Heavy Water definitely sticking to its name.
Yeah, again, those dates coming up October 15th to November the 8th, so that'll be a one-day event, the holding period. And if we don't get the swell that year, well, we'll pack it up and save it up for next year. We'd like to thank Fernando Aguirre and the ISA, the International Surfing Association, just coming off a huge successful event here in Japan just about a week ago. Was the ISA World Surfing Games, as surfing is now included into the summer rotation of the Olympics coming up next year in Tokyo. It'll be down in Chiba. And congratulations to Sofia Milanovic from Peru and Italo Ferreira from Brazil for winning the gold medals in the team aspect, and Brazil winning the team format. And we're going to see more exciting ISA events. The next on docket for the ISA at the end of October into November is the ISA World Juniors down in Huntington Beach, California. So Team USA winning that event as we go back out to the water and take a look. And how exciting has this trip been to Osaka?
It's been great. It's my first time to Japan, believe it or not. I wish I could spend a little more time here, but we're out of here real quick tomorrow. But just in Osaka, our town, we've experienced a lot of good food, a lot of good microbreweries. Got to check it out and get into the city a bit. So it's a great venue. Like the turnout, the open race had a lot of participants. Big crowd, too. So it's been a really good, fun event here in Osaka, Japan.
Okay, we're going to go Riverside and check in with Matu from Total Sup. He's got somebody he wants to talk to.
Thank you, guys. I'm with a local champ, Yuka Sato. She had a great race today, finishing third. Yuka, how was it for you today?
本当にすごいプレッシャーがあったので、3位という順位ですけど、すごい嬉しいです。
Okay, you're in your home country. It's not really your home because you live closer to Tokyo. But you know Osaka. How does it feel to gather the international athletes in your home country?
大阪は自分のホームカントリーじゃないんです。ホームのシティじゃないんですけど、何回もここで撮影したりとか、周りの地域の方と漕いだりとかできたので、すごく楽しかったです。
Okay, let's talk about the sprint races yesterday. How did they play out for you?
1 minute.
スプリントは正直得意な分野ではなかったので、もう本当に今日トップ3に入って逆転するっていう。
Okay, well, thank you very much, Yuka, and I guess we'll see you in Paris.
I think so. I want to play for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Arigato.
ありがとうございました。
All right, thank you, Matu, and congratulations. Yuka Saka, the 3rd overall in the distance.
Yeah, she's stoked, man. She had a good race and right in front of a big crowd here in Japan. And, she's such a good light for Japan paddling. And, she had a bunch of fans come out and watch her paddle.
Well, the distance race today, the sprint races yesterday, phenomenal, a lot of points, and we're seeing Seychelles regroup and still lead the women's race for the APP. Michael Booth has now moved into just a slight margin, 250-point lead over Arthur Rukin. So it's going to come down to France, where Arthur won last year. So that'll be kind of exciting. And if we could get down to Matu, I'd like to get some closing words from him and see what he thought about this whole event over the last 2 days of racing. And are we ready for Matu? Not yet. Okay. Dave, your closing statements here at the APP Osaka Sup Open?
Yeah, well, I just thought Japan was such a great venue. Good turnout. The paddling community is alive and well here in Japan. The open racing was insane. The sprint format was awesome. Everybody seemed to enjoy that, and the distance race. So another great event by the APP World Tour. And, I can't wait to get back here next year.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully it's on the docket again for 2020. And, of course, Japan hosting not only the Olympics in 2020, they're hosting the World Cup Rugby right now that's going on. Let's go down to Matu and see what he thinks of this event this past week. Take it away, Matu.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Bo. And thank you, everyone, for watching around the world. Oh, by the way, make sure to share this live feed on Facebook. It's just one very quick click of a button. What a unique location to be. Once again, the APP World Tour delivered an iconic location and some amazing racing. What a great weekend of sprint and long distance racing here on Nakanoshima Island in the very heart of Osaka. I have to say I'm very impressed by what Michael and Seychelles did today, always delivering when they need to do it, and obviously putting them in at the top of the world rankings right now. But you've got lots of international athletes pushing behind them, and it's going to be a very, very exciting final in Paris. We will be there. Of course, Total Sup is going to be there, and I look forward to the indoor sprint racing. Obviously, a very unique format to watch, a very exciting one as well, and obviously racing along the Eiffel Tower in the heart of Paris is a great way to finish this APP World Tour 2019. Thank you, Babe. Thank you, Bo. Now let's go for that IPA beer of yours, Bo. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, so I got to shout out the next IPA, huh?
Well, you're the guy. You are the Bo PA ambassador.
Oh, the Bo PA. So we got to brew our own home brew. Well, thank you for tuning in to the APP stop number 3 on the racing year. Again, one more stop for the racers coming up December. It'll be the Paris Sup Open. Join us for then. Don't forget Barbados Pro-Am in November. Also the Grand Canaries coming up in December, along with the Red Bull Heavy Water, if it should go between October and November. Just keep tuned to the APP World Tour. For myself, Bo Hodge, for Dave Bainey, we thank you very much, Arigato, and we'll see you next time on the APP World Tour.
Nice one, brother.
So we didn't even have to talk about the Danny Basilio boat incident because it was never on there.
Well, they cleverly edited that.
Oh.